Hi, everybody. It is Megan Gill here, and I am at Paint Flowers and More, and I am happy to be here because today we are going to paint something, one of my favorite things, which is pumpkins. I love painting pumpkins. So we're going to try to do some loosey-goosey pumpkins, and I want you to watch. If you like what you see here, sign up for my newsletter at meganbaileygill.com/sign up, or just subscribe to this YouTube channel. So let's pull up so you can see, and I'll tell you what we're going to do. Okay, so sometimes I like to just start and not even draw, but I feel like learning how to draw a pumpkin is pretty essential to learning about pumpkins, period. So one of the things that I always start with, no matter what, is I start with the ground. You should always have the ground. And a pumpkin is pretty simple. One of the things I like about it is that you start with an oval. Let's start with, I'm trying to make a bigger oval here. There's an oval. And then I kind of like to just do C's. So if you can draw a C, you can draw a pumpkin. And let's just do one right here. Now notice, I should probably put my horizontal line above here. So I'm just going to do that for the moment. And up here, we got a little stem. And then we're going to draw the top there. And that's about it. Okay, now that's pumpkin one, but I really like the short ones that are kind of flat. So I'm taking my kneaded eraser here. Let's clean this up just a little bit so we have that. And now let's do one here. So one of the things I like to start with here is actually kind of a heart cutoff is basically what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to do one big old C here and one big old C right here. Okay. So then I'm going to come in straight away and add that. Now I'm going to erase this so you can see this just a little bit better. Okay. So 2 C's and this oval here. And then what I'm going to do is come in and make some more C's. And that is going to be the shape of my pumpkin right there. Notice that it kind of has bumps down here for it to sit on. And I'm going to just go ahead and put in a stem. So that is the gist of how to paint a pumpkin or to draw a pumpkin. So easy. So now let's actually paint the pumpkin. So here's what I have. I have a number 6 watercolor brush, round, okay? And I have some some water here. And over here on the right, let's just move everything over here. Over here on the right, I have some koi watercolors, and I also have I'm spraying this with wetness, a dry erase board, just so you can see that right there. Now, it is dirty, and that may have a problem, but we'll see. So to paint loose, one of the biggest things that I've learned painting loose is water. Wet water works best. So one of the things I'm going to start with is, well, I kind of wanted this a little bit less. There we go. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my kneaded eraser and just making that a little bit less prominent. Okay, so I'm going to start with the brightest bright that I want my pumpkin, which for me is actually going to be kind of a yellow. I'm going to take a yellow. Let's put it here. Now, chances are my yellow is going to get a little dirty because I've got this dirty area here, but we'll see. I'm adding a lot of water here to this yellow, and I'm going to come and I'm going to, this is clear water, I want you to know. And I'm just putting some water down now, and it's soaking in pretty good to my paper here. But now up here at the top, I'm going to just put some of this yellow just right here on these edges. Now, Most times my highlight is going to be at the top of my pumpkin, but notice it's bringing it all the way down. That's good. We kind of want that. So let's go over here and do this one. So this time I'm trying real hard not to let these ribs, I'm going to call them ribs, touch each other. And I don't want this pumpkin to touch this pumpkin. It looks like it has. We're about to find out. So here's my yellow. I'm going to just put it right here and see if I can't see what happens with that water there. All right, not bad. It didn't bleed. That's good. Good news. Okay, so I have that all painted. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit of orange. I'm just going to work down my palette here on the right. So I'm just going to keep working. I started with the yellow. I'm going to go into add a little bit of orange into my yellow, or some orange in my yellow. So now I'm just getting a little bit warmer as I go. And this time I'm going to start at the bottom and see if I can't go up. Now, I feel a little ribby. That's a real word for your own information. And like, what about these other areas between here? I am going to get to those. So I am just putting water down here. I feel like sometimes I'm doing gel. I'm painting a gel on a pumpkin with the bars and that kind of thing. So here I am, and notice that it's wet and it is combining. It is going where the water is. That's what I want. Okay, so I'm going to keep on going, and this time, I'm going to go into peach. And I'm adding the peach to my yellow, which I almost was out of. So let's add some yellow here. Let's add a little bit of orange just to keep this consistent. But I want a little bit more peach. There we go. And this time I'm going to come in and get me some water. And I'm going to come in and just put a middle rib all the way down the middle here. Okay, not bad. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to let it fill itself. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of water. Notice I am filling in those blanks, but you still see some of those ribs. I haven't touched the top yet. All right, I'm going to do the same down here in the bottom. Again, I don't really want these two to touch yet. All right, so there's that. Nice and peachy. Now I'm getting a puddle here. It's like buckling. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, mainly because I don't want buckling to happen. I'm just going to take, and basically what I'm doing is I'm drying off my brush and I'm letting it soak up some of that water. So it's not so puddly. That's a real word too. Okay, so now I'm going to take a red and I'm going to put it with this orange. Now that is really bright. Red is kind of scary. So we also have to decide which one of these pumpkins is going to be darker than the other. And I think I'm going to make this my prominent one. So I'm going to love on it. I'm going to add a little bit of red in here. And it's making basically these ribs. Notice I'm doing it right on the ribs and the bottom to make this look like it's sitting on something. Notice I haven't touched this top, so I'm going to touch it right now. And it's got a little bit right there. And I'm going to let that sit. Now I'm going to get a little bit of water here and I'm going to just pull it. Okay, gonna let that sit. Let's go up here and work on this one up here. So now when I'm coming up here, we're going to change the color of this baby for a little bit. Let's make this more of a yellow brown one. So I'm going to take a little red brown. We'll probably use red brown on the other one too, but let's start this one with a red brown. And I'm going to just come up and I'm touching right where the ribs are on this. Okay. right in there. Now, remember I said I wanted this one to be lighter. At this rate, it's not going to be that way because I just added a really dark color. So, but there's a trick to that. Now, I need to let this sit. It's kind of watery and it's kind of all over the place. And I'm going to do my working around so this doesn't get all wet and it stays wet. We need to let it dry just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a stem. So this is one of my favorite browns. It's like a burnt umber, like a real brown. And I'm just going to come up here. And it's kind of a triangle. And I'm getting it into some of those wetness. All right. And I am pulling it into the cracks of the ribs here. So it kind of forces it down a little bit. Now that one's going a little bit, but notice how it's just kind of dispersing real nice and easy. That's not a big deal. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do a few browns to this too, because it needs to sit on something. Because it's round, it's going to have this round base and it's going to have a shadow down here. So that's kind of why I'm doing that. All right, not bad. And now I'm going to come up here to this one. Let's make it have its stem. Notice my stems are kind of a triangle with a little thick of a bottom. It's an upside down triangle. So a lot of people sometimes want these real curly ones, which is fine. You can have a curly one. But if you are intimidated and you just want to get a pumpkin, you don't have to do that. Let's see if I can't. That helps a little bit, right? With that glare. Okay, so here's what we're going to do next. I'm going to also put a little bit of greenery down here for it to sit on, because right now that's kind of where I want, right? Like it has to be sitting on something. Now I'm going to be very careful, kind of. If you know me being very careful is not very careful. And I'm adding some water down here to the bottom of where these are sitting. Notice it's already, that right there means it is bleeding. So I wasn't very careful. And I'm going to get a couple greens. So I'm going to start with this olive green. And because my board is dirty, it's going to look even more dirty. And I'm just going to start putting some globs of green. Now, something about loose watercolors is that you gotta see the leaves inside the texture. You can't make them, okay? So now up here where it's dry, I'm making some, okay? Same thing for down here. It's not as dry, or it is dry. So I'm just kind of squiggling it out. Okay, that works. Let's turn this one off and see. Oh, that makes it even worse. I'm telling you, the lighting, I just can't get the lighting. Sorry, people. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I have let this rest a little bit, and I'm going to come in and get a little bit more green. So I got a nice blue green that time, and I'm going to come in and on like some of the sides, basically, I'm kind of thinking, oh, that looks like a nice leaf. So I'm going to add a little bit of a green there. Same thing for that. Isn't that fun? Okay, nice. Again, I'm going to come in and add a little bit of squiggles. Now remember, I said a lot of people like squiggles up here. So let's just wee. Oh, I love that. That's fun. Okay, so I'm going to just start doing a little bit. Well, I'm going to leave that the way it is because I want one here, but this is way too wet for me to do that. So patience is the key here. Patience is the key. All right, so I like this. I'm going to go back to that red brown. Okay, so I have this red brown. And this time I'm going to come in and kind of I'm lightly going over my pencil lines, honestly, where those ribs are. And I'm trying to start at the bottom and work my way up because I want this to remain wet because or lighter. And see what's happening? It's lightening. It's this whole middle part is lighter than everything else, and that's kind of where I'm headed. So I'm going to make that go to the top here and see what happens. That's nice. That's looking really good. Notice there's still some pure white parts right now, and that is on purpose. That are like the pure highlights. So I still want this to be a little bit more orangey. So let's get some more orange in this red. And this is almost milky color. Like I cannot see through this very much. So that means it's got a whole lot of color in it. Again, I'm starting at the bottom and I am moving up from that and just kind of coming in and adding. It's almost when you're doing wet on wet, it's almost like dabs, just dabs. I mean, can you just dab? That's the key. I think a lot of people were like, I can't do it because it's, just dabbing. And if you're wanting it nice and loose, the water's supposed to be doing the work for you. Now that is looking pretty good for me. I'm really liking that. Now this guy over here, I honestly kind of want him more peachy. So I'm going to start him in the peach zone. Kind of a pinky peach color. And I'm going to start making I'm kind of starting him up here at the top because in this pumpkin, this is where the light would hit, right? So I can't really start down here because it's going to touch this pumpkin. So I'm having to make a lot of details or decisions, honestly. All right, now I can still use, I'm going to get some of that burnt umber again. And I'm going to come in to the side of that pumpkin right there, or the stem. And because I'm scared of this burnt umber up here, I'm just going to add it down here because this needs to be dark. You see, I am thinking about, oh, that's a little scary. So I start somewhere where I know it will work. So that's why I'm moving it to those places. So here I am adding it. I'm really liking the way this is looking. This is nice and wet. All right, I'm taking, now over here in the green, I'm going to take some pure color here, and I'm going to just add some dirt and add some darkness in here. I'm getting pretty close to that pumpkin in here because I want it to look like it's sitting on something. Now, you see how I have that white halo? I'm gently coming in. I don't want it to totally bleed everywhere, but I need some of it there. All right, so that's making that a little bit more interesting. I like. Let's go up here. What I'm trying to do is give this time to clean, like dry, as I'm doing that. So one of the things, what's the complementary color of blue, of orange? It's blue. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to make a nice light wash of this turquoise blue. So I'm making a nice little water, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to see how close I can get it. Now, you see how it's getting dry right there? All I did was went into the water and pull it out because I don't want this to be totally dark right here. I want it just to be there because a lot of people are like, how did you get that nice watery background? You just don't add paint over again. You go in with some water because that's what watercolor is. Notice that it's also bleeding a little bit. And I'm not panicking. It bled right in there and it looks gorgeous. But that's an interesting thing. You really can't tell right there. So what if I took a little bit of this turquoise color and I'm going to add it to this guy? Oh boy. Oh boy, what did she just do? Okay, so here I am adding some dots right in there. Now, it's almost looking like it's a rotten one. Here's what I'm doing. I'm going to wipe this off and literally come in real close, and I'm basically sucking away some of that darkness. But look at how that's rounding out that pumpkin pretty nicely. Okay, nice. Now I'm going to come in here back to this orange. I'm going to come in right in here because I want that a little bit brighter. I want this a little bit brighter in here. All right, now I am really, really liking this. Okay, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you make a loose pumpkin. And I'm coming in and I'm adding just some more greenery in here because, they're in vines and stuff in a pumpkin patch. And that's where I'm going to end it. Okay, now the question is I would love to see the pen work, Megan. You never do the pen work. So what if I dry this real quick? Let's see how far I can dry it. Hold. There you go. This is my Ranger heat it tool. It's pretty quiet, so you don't, hopefully you're still hearing me, but I'm drying it off just a little bit, and we're working from here. So I have other videos. I have one where we just make dots. You know what would be a cool experiment if can we make a pumpkins only out of dots? Ooh, I think I might try that. Tell me in the comments, like as in the YouTube or on Facebook or something, say, yes, I'd love to see you try to make pumpkins out of dots. It may be a complete disaster. Who knows? But it'd be a nice, fun try. All right, so what I've done is I've done this where this is almost dry. Yeah, pretty close. And then I'm going to get my Uniball Signo pin out if I can find one. That's always fun on my desk. All right. And we will do a few outlining stuff since y'all don't normally get to see that. Okay. So this is a Uniball Signo 207 Bold pen. It's my favorite pen. It's permanent once it is dry. But if it's wet on your paper, it bleeds everywhere. So always have it wet or dry. And you can get a link to this and some of my favorites on my site. So at meganbaileygill.com, and go to the About Us page. You can see some of my favorites. It says favorites. Okay, so I have one of the things I do is I try to talk while I do this, but I have kind of a hard time. So I try to make sketchy lines, and that's getting it there. Whee! Okay. Now, notice I'm not going over all of the lines that I originally did, right? Like, I'm not paying too much attention to it. I'm doing a whole lot of scribbling, basically. Now, I have got this scribbled. I want to make sure that this is behind this one. So one of the things I'm going to do is do some cross-hatching here, just to make sure that this pumpkin gets a little bit different treatment and that's behind that. See how that made that? Now, over here, I'm going to pick up some of my squiggles and make them into leaves. That's what I meant by making loose. You don't always have to plan out all those leaves. You can kind of just come in and make them out of the shapes of your paintbrush. You don't have to, do all that. Now, what do I do with this little bottom half right here? Is I'm going to go ahead and make it sit down. So I've got a bottom on it. Yep. But I'm going to also make it a lot darker down here. Now, this is a nice and darker, but it's like, that's all I see now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some scratchy marks right like that for this to actually sit on. And that is going to be my pumpkin. Now, I like that a lot. Okay. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more of this, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I'll see you next week for paint flowers and more. Maybe we'll try the pumpkin with some dots. I'm not sure yet. I'll talk to you later. Bye.